Welcome everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over our learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to find the slope of a line when given 2 points on the line. How are we learning it? From the finding slope from 2 points part 1 notes and finding slope from 2 points part 1 assignment. When can we use this information? To calculate the amount of money in a savings account. How do we know we learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the finding slope from 2 points part 1 assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We'll begin by going over our learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. After that, we'll go over the finding slope from 2 points part 1 notes, and then I'll give you time to complete the finding slope from 2 points part 1 assignment. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the linear equations study guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the finding slope from 2 points part 1 notes. The notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Now let's talk about slope. What is slope? Slope is a rate of change involving x values and y values. Slope is known as for being the change in the dependent variable over the change in the independent variable. Now what does that really mean? That really means that slope is the change in the y values over the change in the x values. So it's always y over x. And the next part you need to know is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where the linear function crosses the y-axis. So we have a line here, and we can see that the y-axis goes here. So where do they intersect? Well, they intersect right there. That is what we call the y-intercept. So in this case, our y-intercept would be 2. Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is written as y equals mx plus b. And what does that mean? M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Y and x are my variables that stay variables so that I can plug numbers in and see what they come out to be. So m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Now how can I remember that? The easiest way I remember this is m represents the slope because it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So think about it in terms of relationships. People that are involved in relationships and they break up, there's usually that one person in that relationship that's always hanging on to the relationship that's already dead. That's the slope. That's M. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. They are not together anymore. But the M is always trying to hang on. Notice how close they are. So M is trying to hang on, and it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. Now B, on the other hand, is alone. Not attached to anybody. B is lonely. And lonely people ask the questions, why am I alone? Why does no one want me? Why does no one think I'm cute? That's B. B is always asking the why questions. Those are the y-intercept questions. So that's the way I remember it. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your ex. And why am I alone? So that's the way I remember slope and y-intercept. Now, let's go ahead and pick out the slope and y-intercept from an equation. So we're given an equation, y equals 2x plus 4. And we want to know what is the slope of that line. Well, we know that the slope is the one that's attached to its x, right? So it's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So the one that's attached to the x in this case is 2. So the slope is 2. The y-intercept is the lonely one. Why am I alone? Well, the lonely one is 4, so my y-intercept is 4. So that's how I pick out the slope and y-intercept given an equation. Let's look at another example. We have y equals negative 3 halves x minus 3. Well, same thing. It's a slippery slope to get hung up on your x. So the slope is the one that's attached to the x, which is negative 3 halves. So that's my slope. And my y-intercept is the lonely one. Well, the lonely one in this case is negative 3. So b is -3. So that's how I find the slope and y-intercept from an equation. Now what if I'm given 2 points and asked to find the slope? Well, first thing we need to remember is that coordinates are written in the form x and y, right? So the x goes first and the y goes second. And that slope is the change in the y over the change in the x. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these points and we're going to subtract the y values and put that as my numerator, and subtract the x values and put that as my denominator. So when I do that, I get 1 minus 2. Those are my y's, so that's my change in y. So my change in y is 1 minus 2. And my change in x is 2 minus 4. So that's change in y over change in x. Now when I do that, 1 minus 2 is -1. And 2 minus 4 is -2. And when I do that, a negative divided by a negative just becomes a positive. So this is just 1/2. So my slope for that line that goes through those 2 points is 1/2. Let's look at another example. So what is the slope of the line that passes through -3, -3, and 2, -6? Again, coordinates are written as x and y. So this is my x, this is my y, this is my x, this is my y. And slope is change in y over change in x. So I'm going to calculate that by subtracting my y values first. So -3 minus -6. And then I'm going to subtract my x values, which is -3 minus 2. So I get -3 minus -6 and -3 minus 2. And when I simplify, this really becomes plus positive. So -3 plus 6 is 3. And -3 minus 2 is -5. So it's 3 over -5, which is just -3/5. There's a video here also that shows you how to graph linear functions in Desmos. So you can go ahead and watch that. Let's talk now about how to check our work with linear equations using Desmos. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to desmos.com, just like this, and we're going to click on the link that says Graphing Calculator. And over here on the left side, we can enter the equation of any linear equation and it will graph it for us. So let's try y equals 2x minus 4. Well, as we can see, it graphs it for us. We can check that against whatever we did on our assignment now. And you can do it this way. Let's say we had an equation, though, that wasn't in slope-intercept form. We can still graph that on here and check our work. So let's say it was 4x minus 2y is equal to 8. And we can see that that's actually the same as this one. But we can look at this and check our work this way as well. It still graphed the equation in slope-intercept form, even though the equation we put in is not in slope-intercept form. So this is one way that you can check your work using Desmos to find linear equations. Let's take a look now at how to complete the Finding Slope from 2 Points Part 1 assignment. So our assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. We'll scroll down and answer a couple of these questions. So the first one says, find the slope of the line passing through -5, -4, and 2, 3. So if you remember, what we're going to do to find the slope is we're going to find the change in y. So we'll subtract the two y values and then put that over the change in x, which is subtraction of the x values. So let's look at the y values first. So -4, and we're going to subtract the other y value, which is 3. So -4 minus 3 is -7. And then my x's, I have -5 minus 2, which is -7 also. So we get -7 over -7, which is the same thing as -7 divided by -7. Well, the negatives cancel out, so we have 7 divided by 7, which is just 1. So the slope would be 1. So we'll mark that as our answer. Let's try another one. Let's try this one here. So -4, 1, and -5, 3. So again, I'm going to calculate the change in y and put that over the change in x. So I'm going to take the y's, so this is 1, and I'm going to subtract the other y, which is 3. So 1 minus 3 is -2. And then we'll do the change in x's. So we have -4 minus -5, which becomes +1. So we have negative 2 over positive 1. Well, negative 2 divided by 1 is just negative 2, so we get negative 2 as our slope. So that should be our answer. So we'll do that for each of these. We'll answer each of these questions, and then when we get to the end, we'll click Next. This will send you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and submit your Before You Go, and then submit your work on Google Classroom.